Did you know the very first year of World War II changed the course of history forever? From secret strategies to shocking battles, 1939-1940 set the stage for the deadliest conflict the world has ever seen. Stay with NeoHistorica A.I. as we uncover the untold stories of WW2’s opening year. Welcome back to NeoHistorica A.I., your ultimate hub for in-depth war history. Today, we dive deep into the first year of WW2, exploring events that shocked nations and altered the global map forever. Don't forget to subscribe for more exclusive war history insights. Our story begins on September 1st, 1939. Under the pretense of a staged attack, German forces stormed across the Polish border. This wasn't just another border skirmish. It was the spark that would ignite a global firestorm. In response, Britain and France, honoring their alliance with Poland, declared war on Germany 2 days later. But what followed wasn't the immediate all-out conflict many expected. Instead, the world watched as a strange quiet fell over the Western Front. This period, from late 1939 to early 1940, became known as the Phony War. While French and British troops manned their defenses, very little direct military action took place. It was a time of anxious waiting, a calm before a truly devastating storm. But for Poland, there was nothing phony about the war. They faced the full, terrifying might of the German war machine. Despite being outmatched in numbers and technology, the Polish people fought with incredible courage. From the cavalry charges against tanks to the desperate defense of Warsaw, their resistance was heroic. But they were caught in a vice. Just weeks after the German invasion, the Soviet Union invaded from the east, sealing Poland's fate. Within a month, the country was partitioned between Germany and the Soviets. But the Polish spirit of resistance would live on, forming one of the largest underground movements of the entire war. NeoHistorica A.I. brings you eyewitness accounts and rare archival footage from this tense period. The eerie quiet of the Phony War was shattered in the spring of 1940. Germany unleashed a new, terrifying form of warfare, the Blitzkrieg or Lightning War. This strategy combined fast-moving armored divisions, motorized infantry, and overwhelming air support to punch through enemy lines and cause chaos deep in their territory. Denmark and Norway fell in a matter of weeks, securing Germany's northern flank and vital iron ore routes. Then in May 1940, the main event began. The Wehrmacht bypassed France's heavily fortified Maginot Line by invading through the supposedly impassable Ardennes Forest in Belgium and Luxembourg. The speed of the German advance was simply stunning. Allied forces were outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. The British Expeditionary Force and French armies were pushed back to the sea, cornered at the coastal town of Dunkirk. What happened next was nothing short of a miracle. Facing annihilation, a massive evacuation was launched. A flotilla of over 800 vessels, from naval destroyers to small civilian fishing boats and private yachts, crossed the English Channel under constant enemy fire. In a heroic effort dubbed Operation Dynamo, over 338,000 Allied soldiers were rescued from the beaches. While a strategic disaster, Dunkirk became a symbol of resilience and defiance that galvanized the British public. But it couldn't save France. On June 22, 1940, France surrendered, a shock that reverberated across the globe. In less than a year, Hitler was the master of Western Europe. You won't believe how close Europe came to total collapse in just 1 year. With France defeated, Britain stood alone. Many around the world, including some in the United States, believed its surrender was inevitable. But they underestimated the resolve of the British people and their new Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. His defiant speeches echoed across the airwaves, promising to fight on the beaches and never surrender. Hitler, expecting Britain to sue for peace, prepared an invasion plan, Operation Sea Lion. But first, he needed to control the skies. This set the stage for one of history's most iconic aerial conflicts, the Battle of Britain. From July to October 1940, the German Luftwaffe launched a massive air campaign to destroy the Royal Air Force, or RF. Day after day, German bombers, escorted by fighters, crossed the Channel to attack airfields, radar stations, and eventually cities like London in the Blitz. The pressure was immense. The pilots of the RAF, famously dubbed the Few by Churchill, were vastly outnumbered. They flew tirelessly, scrambling to meet wave after wave of attackers. The fate of the nation rested on their shoulders. What enabled Britain to hold on? Let's explore why Britain survived when it seemed impossible. It was a combination of factors. First, technology. The British had a crucial advantage with their integrated air defense system, which included the revolutionary radar technology that gave them early warning of incoming raids. This allowed the RAF to manage its limited resources effectively. Second, superior aircraft like the Supermarine Spitfire and Hawker Hurricane could often outmaneuver their German counterparts. And third, unbreakable morale. Despite the terror of the Blitz, British civilians and leaders refused to break. The RAF's heroic defense ultimately forced Hitler to postpone and eventually cancel the invasion of Britain. It was his first major defeat of the war. While Europe was engulfed in flames, the conflict was already taking on global dimensions. The Axis powers began to solidify their alliance. In September 1940, Germany, Italy, and Japan signed the Tripartite Pact, a defensive alliance that created the Rome-Berlin-Tokyo axis. This was a clear signal to the world, especially the United States, that their ambitions were global. Italy, under Mussolini, had already joined the war in June, hoping to expand its empire in the Mediterranean and North Africa. Meanwhile, Imperial Japan continued its expansionist war in China, eyeing the vulnerable European colonies in Southeast Asia. On the other side of the Atlantic, the United States watched with growing alarm. Officially, the country was neutral, and a strong isolationist sentiment prevailed. But President Franklin D. Roosevelt knew that a Nazi-dominated Europe was a direct threat to American security. He began taking cautious steps to aid the Allies. The Destroyers Four Bases Agreement in September 1940 provided the hard-pressed British with 50 older U.S. naval destroyers in exchange for land rights on British possessions. It was a clear sign of where American sympathies lay and a precursor to the much larger Lend-Lease Act that would follow. The world was choosing sides, and the stage was set for an even wider conflict. So let's recap the whirlwind of events that defined the first year of World War II. It began with the brutal invasion of Poland, followed by the deceptive calm of the phony war. Then, the Blitzkrieg unleashed a storm that led to the fall of France and the dramatic evacuation at Dunkirk. Against all odds, Britain stood alone and, through sheer grit and innovation, won the Battle of Britain, handing Hitler his first defeat. All the while, the pieces were moving on the global chessboard as the Axis powers aligned and the United States began its slow but steady shift away from neutrality. This single year redrew the map of Europe and set in motion the forces that would define the rest of this catastrophic war. The first year was shocking, but the conflict was just getting started. The war would soon spread to the deserts of North Africa, the icy plains of the Soviet Union, and the vast expanses of the Pacific Ocean. If you want to see the shocking events of W2's second year, stay tuned to NeoHistorica A.I. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.